At full time of another game, Arsenal fans once again left looking for answers. This time, what was the absolute banger Howard Webb was listening to in that earpiece? This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Yeah, what was he listening to? He was so invested in it. Taylor Swift, probably, right? Was it Swift? Maybe Dua Lipa? I don't know. There's some bangers out there. He's got to tell us what he was listening to. I mean, obviously, he wasn't communicating with the referees, with the VAR. That's impossible. He wasn't doing that. Or was he? Oh, boy. We're going to have to get into a little of that. I promise you, this is going to be about football, though. And if what you want is the emotional reaction, the emotional aftermath to the loss, the emotion of the performance, the emotion of the refereeing decisions, you certainly have the instant reaction you can go listen to. That's there for that purpose, right? Because at full time of a game like that, you've got raw emotion coursing through your veins and you need to get it out. And that's where we get it out. And so it is there for you with Paul and Clive and myself. The bonus content is now live on Apple Podcasts. So those of you in India or regions where you weren't able to sign up for Patreon, you can get it over there. We will have an instant reaction again tomorrow because thankfully we play again tomorrow. And in this case, I think that's a positive. We'll get into that. But today is definitely a day to sort of analyze what went wrong against Bournemouth, in part, of course, due to refereeing decisions, which we'll come to, maybe in part as well to selection, to some decisions that were made, and certainly to some key performances and moments of the performances that left us just a little short of where we needed to be. So I just want to unburden myself really quickly and say this. I was really affected by this weekend. Like, it's just football. I know it's just football, but it really affected me. I was really low after the Bournemouth game. And then Sunday rolls around and, the City game unfolds the way it did. And I was thinking, gosh, I'm going to feel so much better about the Bournemouth game with this City draw. It's going to make it feel a little bit less catastrophic. And then the City game ends the way it does with the VAR controversy there. And then the Liverpool game comes and gives us that red card opportunity, right? The sending off opportunity that looks like the Saliba one. It's not given. And it left me in a really low place. So if you are in any way where I am emotionally, where it's really dragged you down, I feel you. I am there with you. This stuff really affects us. And football has a way to do that, which is what makes it so special. And I think it's funny, we've been saying for so long, celebrate the good results, celebrate winning the derby away, right? Celebrate 5-0 over Chelsea. Because even if you just make it about trophies, then you miss something, because then you get a day like this and it really, really drags you down. So I just want to level set where I'm at. I admit I'm in a low place. I'm going to try to help, recover that a bit with analysis here. But I think it's important to understand where we're all coming from emotionally when we break down a game like this. And I wanted to at least give you my truth of where I am. And I hope you're doing okay wherever you are, because I know a lot of people were low this weekend. So here with me now to hopefully lift the mood from that opening salvo is Clive. You can find him on Twitter at ClivePFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, I'm all right. The good thing, I'm all right now. The good thing about football is always another game. So I go and seek games to watch to cheer me up. And there's always perspective, actually, and not to bring the mood down, but a famous British Olympian got given the news that he had terminal cancer over the weekend, and Sir Chris Hoy. And I read that and I thought, you know what, mate, get your head up, son. Get perspective. I'm lucky enough to be going to the Emirates on Tuesday night to watch a Champions League game, and I'll be lucky enough to be there on Sunday. And let's just focus on the next thing that happens, not focus too much on the last thing and the details around it. And see, I hear what you're saying, Elliot, but it's been a long time since we lost a game. So perspective is one thing, but highlighting what went wrong is another. And I hope we can do that today.
Yeah, that's the idea. And I will say this. I mean, and Tim maybe knows this better than anyone. You certainly know it as well, though, Clive. When you go to the game, when you have that community, when you can go to the Tollington before the match and after the match, and you can share a pint, or you got a train journey home from an away match or whatever the case is, it's not that the games hurt less or mean less, but you have a little of that community to share the experience with, whether that's jubilation or disappointment. When you're where I was, in your house, stuck watching it in isolation with the toxicity of the internet as your only companion, things like this podcast for me, they are the rescue. They are what I need, because you can really, really get dragged to a dark place, especially if your outlet is social media, where it gets pretty difficult. Getting a bit meta here, though. So Tim, bail me out. Tim's on Twitter at so many things. Tim.
Hello there.
How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you. Not too bad. Yeah, I followed Saturday's game at a slight remove. I was at a wedding So I was kind of following it on my phone, and you know how this goes, right? Like the first half, you don't look too much. I had the notifications, and first half an hour, didn't really check my timeline at all. Got the little notification that Arsenal are down to 10. You start checking in a little bit more, and then by about the 60th minute to the 90th minute, you're kind of never off your phone at that point. And on Sunday I was at the women's game, so I was a little bit disconnected from like the Man City and stuff like that. But I was sitting next to Arsenal staff when that City goal went in, and it was a little bit palpable. I'm not gonna lie, everyone was like, "Oh, for Christ's sake!" Like this weekend. I'm with Clive. Like, really glad there's a game tomorrow. As well. Like I think like that feels like we talk about trap games a lot, right? But there are palate cleanser games. And actually the women had one last week. They had Vålerenga at home in the Champions League after a really bad spell. And it's like, they need this. They just need to, they went out, they won 4-1. Wasn't amazing entertainment, but like it was, there's a little bit of Sorvet. For example.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I tweeted sort of almost right at full time, basically. It's so hard not to get caught up in the emotion of a moment, but this feels like a weekend that we're going to be looking back on for a while. That's where I was at, right? In the emotion of that moment. Actually, that was at full time, of the City game. And the two types of humans are in my replies. There's the humans that are like, mate, the title's gone already. Just give it up. Why do you even care anymore? And then there were the people who were like, mate, it's just October. What are you getting so overdramatic about? You know what I mean? There's two types of humans and the different way we deal with it. And it's just sort of funny to see that dichotomy. And we all go to our own place in those kinds of moments. I think we're a little lucky, not only that we play tomorrow in a game we should win at home, I think we're lucky we have a big game at home in the Premier League next. Because if we played like, Ipswich at home next and won big, we'd be like, all right, that's good. We're back on track. But it doesn't sort of fix anything. If we can beat Liverpool, now we're going to have to do it without Saliba, but if we can beat Liverpool at home, it really restores confidence that, no, that was a blip. This is who we really are. So we'll see all that. We'll get to that in a moment. Clive, it's an easy place to start with this game because I think a big part of the story of this game outside of the red card is the lineup and the impact it had on some of our automatisms, our partnerships, our associations. We went with 3 central midfielders, essentially, in Marino, Rice, and Partey. We moved Trossard out wide. Kai started up front. Sterling gets his start on the right. Ben White comes back into the side, and the rest is sort of what you'd expect. I can give you my thoughts on it in a moment, but I want to get yours first. So what did you think of that lineup and the potential ramifications of that?
Yeah, well, firstly, that lineup should be good enough to beat Bournemouth. But regardless of the things we're going to talk about, it should be good enough. That lineup is very experienced. Look at the age of that team that we put out. It's not a kiddie team that we put out a couple of years ago. And so they're able to go to places like this and deliver. It's also, for me, there was a slight imbalance in that lineup, but it's very difficult to really be overcritical with that because we don't know what the plan was. And so the plan was to start the game solid and win the game late. Then, you can say I can deal with that. But we never saw that because we're down to 10 men. So there's a 2 lineup discussion, one at the start of the game, and I'm sure you'll come on to the one when we had the sending off and how we adjusted. So I'll save that on the table, Elliot.
Yep.
But I do think if you just look at a team very, very simply, in the starting 11, for me, we had 8 people in that starting 11, which were what I call behind the ball players. That we're used to seeing them behind the ball. Then we had 3 forwards in Havertz, Sterling and Trossard. Trossard had moved, right? So we got 29-year-olds and 30-year-olds on the outside. So they're your youthful sprinters. Me and Tim talk about this on the women's team as well. There's your youthful sprinters in wide areas. And you got Havertz as centre forward. And by the way, we bought him as a midfielder, although I disagree, but it doesn't really matter. And so we really have 3 players are going to get you goals and 7 players or 8 players are going to stop the goals. And so I think if we're going to play that team, then we need to say, so what are we trying to be today then? Are we trying to be aggressive, controlling, win our duels, really impose ourselves on Bournemouth? And I don't think we did. I don't think we were engaged enough in the game. I don't think we were engaged enough in the things we had to do, which was for me, which was win our duels. I don't think we won enough of them, so we didn't quite control the game. We weren't under any threat, but we didn't quite impose ourselves on them enough to make them fear us enough. I felt we were just jabbing away on the chin, doing our little movements, and it felt like a bit of a nothing. So I didn't like how we are being pressured, actually. And when you come into the goal, Elliot, I'll tell you what I saw from watching this morning, because I could only stomach up to the goal, until the sending off. Now I thought, I just can't stomach this anymore. So, but yeah, I don't think we had the right team in the first place. I felt we were one attacking player short. That was my gut feeling. I don't care who it is. I got thoughts, but I don't think you can go into a team with 7+3. It should be 6+4 minimum. And I quite like the system that we had before, with our twos rather than our midfield threes. I quite like that. And I don't think we need to change away from that in this game. We could have done something far simpler, particularly when we've been away from each other for 2 weeks. I think we messed up with the starting 11, but it shouldn't have cost us anything, but it ended up costing us.
Yeah. And I think there's something, Tim, that I want to just ask you about really quickly before I give you a go at the lineup, because I think weirdly, in a game where we only had 11 men for 30 minutes, the lineup is an important conversation, because after that, I agree with Mikel. It's very, very difficult to analyze a game with 10 men. We're going to do our best to do it. We played without Odegaard. We played without Saka. That is the overwhelming majority of our chance creation. In terms of shot creating actions, chances created, XA, any of that stuff you want to look at, they're not just leaders for us. They're leaders around the league, and there's 2 of them missing. It changes partnerships. It changes responsibilities. As you could see, it changed corner kicks. We took out swingers literally for the first time this season. And we took all of them as out swingers, using Rice to do it. So, Tim, my question for you is sort of simple, which is, have we maybe forgotten that football fundamentally is about talent? And when you keep taking pieces like this out, no Rice for the Derby, no Odegaard for City, no Saka and Odegaard against Bournemouth, and then no Saliba, potentially our 3 best players, is it just a case that the talent drain becomes enough that it is not realistic to expect the level to stay where you've become accustomed to it?
Yeah. I think if we had to do this podcast in 60 seconds, we would say Saka and Odegaard couldn't start. That's the first time that's happened since Brentford in August 2021. And then Saliba got sent off on 30 minutes. So, we already had quite a hard task. It made me think actually quite a bit of the Tottenham game, where, we're missing key players. We were missing Rice on that occasion, not Saka, but, Rice and Odegaard, and we went to Spurs. And I think that maybe our game plan here was kind of similar. Let's have a stodgy away game where we don't concede and we score one, maybe off a set piece, although, as you've pointed out, that becomes more difficult without Saka. I do wonder whether he planned to be quite... this is stuff we'll never know, but I wonder if the plan was 60 minutes, let's just hold the game. We're off the back of an international break. I agree with Clive. I think it's a pretty stodgy 11. At the same time, Jesus could have taken one of the positions in the front 3 maybe, and you put Havertz in midfield. I think that's maybe something he could have done. Obviously, he could have played Nwaneri as well. But I do wonder if all that was in the post in an ideal world where we go away, we say for 60 minutes, let's not lose this game, let's keep 0-0, and then maybe we do that for the last 30. And it made me think of the Spurs game, and it made me think, imagine if Saliba or Gabriel, anyone would have been sent off in that game, after 30 minutes. That's the game plan, up in flames straight away. So I do think that kind of happened here as well. But yeah, I think it was already going to be difficult enough without Odegaard and Saka. And I don't know whether we'll discuss Gabriel Jesus in this podcast or not. But
oh yeah,
Clive's going to make sure. Yeah. I'm glad you're here, Tim, mate. I need to talk.
Calm him down.
he's falling into. Sorry, I know there are some people who object when I say this, and it's not a criticism for Emile Smith Rowe. I'm talking about the situation, but he seems to be falling into the Smith Rowe vortex for me. He's getting garbage minutes when the game's over. But anyway, maybe Arteta would have done that, but maybe he was thinking, I'll do that for the last 30 minutes. I take Havertz out, put him in midfield, put Jesus up front, like Sterling was never going to play 90 minutes. That was never going to have part of the plan in this game, I'm sure. And it all just got ripped up because one of our forwards made a utterly inept decision on the ball and then put us in all kinds of trouble. And, Saliba probably makes a bad decision as well. And that's it. 2 seconds, game upside down. And that's the too long didn't read here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because we now have access to so much analysis and data and comments from managers and comments from pundits about games that you can overcomplicate it. But I love your point. 2 best players out, 3rd best player sent off. Missed a big chance to make it 1-0. That's the game. That's what happened. Wasn't a great performance with 11. Wasn't a great performance with 10. Still probably should have gone 1-0 up when Martinelli has the chance. We didn't. We got punished. You move on. Unfortunately.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Elliot, on your point about, the first half an hour with 11, I've seen a lot of people say, we were rubbish in that period, and I think we were average. I'm sorry, go back and look. In 2024, all these bloody away games that we've won, go and look at the first half an hour of all of them, because I promise you, quite a lot of them look like that. Like, we won 2-0 at Villa. That was a great result. First half an hour of that game, not much different. Like, the reality is the result kind of makes us think that when you win a game, it's because you've been great for the whole 90 minutes. That's away from home. That's not how it goes. Quite often the first 30 minutes is a bit stodgy and uneven, but you don't have to win the game in the first 30 minutes. And that's one of the many things that we lost here. We lost, like, what was the game plan for the whole 90 minutes? Like, what were the subs going to be? All of that. There is an element of pre-planning to all of that, and we lost the chance to see it.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things here that I feel pretty strongly about. I don't like the lineup. Now, there's been this sort of stubborn assertion that Mikel is conservative in his approach, that attack is an issue. I don't agree with that. We've broken our record for goals in consecutive seasons. In games where we've had 11v11, our XG has looked just fine. Our chance creation has looked fine. Missing a lot of attacking talent. You have to modify some things, certainly. And by the way, coming back from an international break, look at Manchester City. They needed added time to beat the bottom team. Okay? They weren't playing well. They should have drawn Wolves away. Okay? Sometimes I think you're better off having a big game like Liverpool did coming back from an international break, because it sort of forces you back into full mode. But the thing that really bothered me is coming back from an international break without a lot of time to prep for it, we broke up some associations. So out of possession, our 4-4-2 has been Leo and Kai up top. We've been playing this 4-2-4 without Odegaard. That's sort of a box in midfield with 2 wide players. And we didn't do that. We moved Leo out wide, where I don't think he's ever looked super comfortable in general for us starting out wide. We put Marino and Kai at the top of the out of possession shape. And we just broke a lot of the associations for Kai, for Leo in our pressing structure. And in fact, Mikel talked about this a little in his pre-match press conference for Shakhtar. So I want to give you these comments before I turn it over to you, Clive, because I think they're interesting on how the midfield were performing before Saliba's red card. Well, it was different, obviously, because Leo has been playing more central, but Gabby had a calf issue with national team, and he wasn't fit enough to start the match, especially with what happened last year when we lost him for 5 or 6 weeks. We didn't want to do that, which meant we had to adapt, and we had to adapt as well our midfield. It's very difficult to have a proper assessment because I expected the first 15 to 20 minutes away at Bournemouth to be a certain way. There are different and new connections that obviously with the injuries that we have to try. It's like the first time we played Leo and Kai. I heard a lot of things about whether we were playing 4-4-2. Then it was flowing and it was magnificent. So things need time in terms of unique connections. Yesterday was not the best one used to analyze and take a lot of things from. And I think his point is right, Clive, that it does take time. And maybe over 90 minutes, that would have borne fruit. We didn't have 90 minutes, we had 30. But I also think coming back from an international break is a tricky time to pick that. You could do it on Tuesday against Shakhtar when the bar might be lower. But the obvious point here is he didn't want to pick Jesus. He could have picked Jesus off the left Leo and Kai up top, and picked 2 of Rice, Marino, and Partey. But he didn't do that. And I think that's a big decision point and maybe a big talking point as well for you.
It just shows what he was prioritizing. He was prioritizing minutes into Marino, and That's what he's prioritising on the day. I personally don't agree with that. I would have started with Sterling off the left, probably, because I think it's easier for him to play off the left in this stage of his Arsenal career. I'll start with Jesus off the right. I'd have kept Trossard in the interior because I don't think Trossard fancies it out wide, particularly early in games when people are smashing him up on his backside, which they did in this game. And on the third occasion when he got the ball facing his own goal, he laid it off first time because you know what? The other team had let him know they were there. Do you know what I mean? And that's what was a big reason for me, part of the goal. So I didn't agree with that. But then again, I didn't agree with that based on my information. Based on how I see the game, etc., I liked what we were doing, our 4-4-2, 4-2-4, whatever you want to call it. I really liked it. My favourite 2 away games were the 2 games that Tim mentioned. My favourite games this season were Villa away and Tottenham away, and the way we overcame them in the way we played and the rhythms by which we played and how we tactically beat both of them on the day. And I loved those 2 games. Absolutely loved it. Just do it again. Just do it again. Because for me, and I've said this about the Man City game, you send the other team a message by not picking forwards. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You get them comfortable. They want you. They want to see where you're dangerous. You know, if you have 2 midfield style players on the pitch who can score versus forwards who can beat you, run past you, twist your socks, lay it off, go again. It's just the mentality of a forward is different to a mentality of a really good all-round midfielder. And so Jesus, for me, had to start. And the fact he didn't start, Elliot, has been the thing that affected my mental health this weekend. Because now I'm wondering. I'm now wondering why he didn't start. Because let me tell you something, right? A big thing that Arteta has for me is not just he's a good football coach. Because I think he's brilliant. And he gets his adjustments right 9 times out of 10 live, right? And really quick, and quicker than we can all get there. But for me, he's a visionary. He's a visionary that's basically knitted his club together top to bottom with other people supporting the club, right? So he's created his vision, which we've all bought into, and the ground is electric, and we're all behind it. We all want to win. Yeah, we're a little bit nervous. We all want to win, but we've been behind it the last 2-3 years. And it's changed how we watch the team, changed the Emirates, changed everything for me. But a big part of that vision is unity in the dressing room. And so my biggest fear is never losing a game, because we're going to lose the odd game. Mm. My biggest fear is the breakdown of unity. If I see that, I worry. I think it's the fundamental thing that drives this along. That's why he always talks about the support. That's why he always brings everybody in. It's the fundamental thing. And I'm wondering if there's a break with Jesus. I'm wondering. I'm worried about that because he's a senior player that's won 4 Premier Leagues, and 2 key attackers were out, and we couldn't find a spot for him to start the game. And that worries me because I don't know why. I've got no information. I don't know why. I'm just looking at the football. Think where we were a year and a half ago when he'd done his knee and how we all felt. He hasn't scored for a long time. I know he hasn't scored since, I think it's January, whatever it is. But there's a hierarchy in the dressing room. I'm consistent with my analysis. There's a hierarchy in the dressing room. And he's on the hierarchy. He should have played. And the fact he didn't play tells me there's a problem. Am I overthinking? Please tell me, guys. Tell me if I am.
I don't think you are. I mean, look, body language analysis is always dangerous, but there was the moment when he came off the other day and he didn't really want the cuddle from Mikel that he was being offered. And there's video of him not celebrating our equalizer in a game, or was it the goal to take the lead against Leicester? There's video of that. It didn't look particularly good on this day. And we've talked at length about why he would be in a bad place psychologically, and I can totally understand it. No longer the first choice at 9, but I think it's a really low moment for him. If Leo Trossard is getting picked out wide to start games over him when Martinelli's not available, just in terms of raw attributes and who can give us what from those positions, I don't agree. I don't agree like it matters what the hell I think, but I think picking, I like the way you phrased it, Clive, 3 behind the ball players in midfield wasn't particularly necessary. It was clear that Mikel wanted to try something new and build new partnerships, and he only got 30 minutes to see it. And you have always made this point, Clive, don't think in terms of first 11s. Well, in order to not think in terms of first 11s, you need 90 minutes of 11v11, right? Because you may have a plan for how you're going to manage your way through a game. And we didn't get that. Tim, instead of just talking about who he picked, we can talk a little bit about how they performed in that first 30 minutes prior to the sending off. And I do think there was some sloppiness that I don't understand. David Raya, by the way, like weirdly, this whole pod could be about David Raya costing us this game, but none of his mistakes did. He had the one save where he kicked it off his own knee and then popped right back up and made the rebound save well off his hand. He gave the ball to them twice. He had some erratic moments. He didn't get punished for it. Kivior did, with his bad back pass. But I mean, Raya had some interesting moments. The keepers both actually had a couple of those kind of big what if moments. I thought Thomas Partey looked really good progressing the ball, but everybody else seemed a little unsure of where they were supposed to be and what they were going to do. It was a lot of new, and it looked like a lot of new on the pitch. That's basically the best way I could sum it up.
Yeah, definitely. Because, Thomas Partey, that's the back of the team, right? And that for 30 minutes was the same, right? Yeah. Same goalkeeper, same back four, same guy in front of them. So
yeah, it's the one guy whose role was basically what his role has been all season.
Yeah,
pretty comfortable. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. To your point on David Raya, this could possibly be over-analysis or over-diagnosis because it could just be that he had a bad game, which happens to everyone. But it is weird sometimes coming off the back of an international break. Clive, I know you spoke on the instant reaction about Saliba, got a bit of criticism playing for France and, in the left centre-back role. And actually that's where he's standing when this happens, which is kind of weird. But Raya went away with Spain and he played both games. And did he keep 2 clean sheets? So,
he did,
maybe it was the opposite. Maybe he's feeling himself a little bit like he's one player of the month at Arsenal.
Tim, he did get engaged the night before. Maybe he was just up late.
Got engaged like life's going well. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe a bit too well. That's almost certainly over-analysis, and he just had a slightly ropey day off the back of an international break away from home. These are notoriously quite difficult fixtures coming off the back of an international break. Really what you want. Maybe we could have, if we could have swapped one of those Southampton-Leicester home games just before the break for this, maybe had Bournemouth just before and then come back to Southampton at home or something. But, you can't choose your fixtures. And yeah, I think ultimately, in terms of things being a bit, I agree on Jesus. I think the other thing that's really concerning about that is he didn't go away for the international break. So he's been there for 2 weeks training. And we're talking about Saka and Ødegaard not being in. Martinelli's not there either. He's on the bench. But those are 3 really, really critical pieces. Really, because Trossard has been playing really well, but not off the left. He's been playing inside a bit more. Really, that's the front 3 from 2 seasons ago that looked like it was going to blow its way to the league title, all gone, with Ødegaard behind them also gone. So, I can forgive that level of dysfunction. And we've got Marino, who that was his first start, wasn't it? For us as well. So it's you're right. It is a lot of new. It might have come together during the game, might not have. Again, I look at the Spurs game. We'd never played Jorginho and Partey together before in midfield. That midfield 3 we picked at Spurs had never played together before, but we muddled through it because we didn't get someone sent off after half an hour. So it's it's quite difficult to make sense of. And again, I don't think anyone, least of all the man himself, thinks Sterling was going to play for 90 minutes. So what was going to happen on the right, for example, really? Jesus pretty much the only choice for that. Not even Reece Nelson's there anymore for his 2.5 minutes off the bench once every 3 months.
Hey, against Bournemouth, Reece Nelson could have been handy, let's be honest.
True enough. So yeah, quite a bit of dysfunction. And then, I'm saying the back 5 is the same, but obviously it's not, because one of them disappears after 30 minutes and then we have to introduce, and then not only that, but the injuries we've got in defence have an impact there as well. And I know you made the point on the instant reaction about Tomiyasu. Even Zinchenko could have been useful because you can bring Calafiori inside. But like the combination of circumstances that means Zinchenko, Timber and Tomiyasu are all out. So then you have to put Kivior in as like right centre back. Like that has an impact as well. I think if we can bring any one of even Zinchenko, who I know people have their issues with, any one of those is a bit more familiar and possibly even a bit more solid than Kivior. So that felt like, I spoke a few weeks ago, it just feels like a couple of little things have gone against us, like the schedule and stuff like that. But look, our two main competitors for the title, one's changed manager and one lost Rodri for the season. So I can't really talk too much about us being a bit down on our luck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you wanted to be very critical and a little uncharitable, you could say, given his options, Mikel will choose to keep a game tight and give very little away. And I don't have a problem with that. It's worked brilliantly for us. And maybe this was a game where he could have opted to have a go at them a bit more, even if that meant that they could have a go at us a bit more. But like I said, games are 90 minutes. And over 90 minutes, you expect to be able to influence the game with the decisions you make. And that changes with 10. And, Mikel was very clear on if he expected more from our performance with 10 men. He said, more with 10 men? Well, I don't know what more we can do when you have to play away from home in this league. It's hard enough with 11. So what we've done with 10 today, I think was quite remarkable. It's impossible to analyze with 10, but let's come to how we got to be down to 10 men. And Clive, I want to emphasize the Arsenal part of this first. There is a part of this where we don't have to go down to 10 men because there are two critical errors. If you want to ask me who's most to blame for us going down to 10 men, I have Trossard as the primary reason because of sort of situational awareness. We play extremely compressed and high up the pitch, and we ask our defenders to stand way up the pitch and in space. And Saliba's doing that, and he's trying to also keep an attacker in an offside position. And Trossard just randomly volleys it back towards his own defender from a wide position, a position which personally I just don't like him to be in anyway. And then Saliba has to make a choice. And in my mind, I think he probably thinks he can just about get away with it from where that position is on the pitch. And so he takes the choice. I think it's the wrong choice, though. If you get into a running race from that distance, there's so many things that can go wrong for the attacker. There's still so many ways it can go wrong. So I think it's a bad mistake by Saliba, who doesn't make those kind of mistakes, although, as you pointed out, coming off a not great international break. And I think it's terrible from Trossard. How do you see it?
Yeah, so I thought, let me get hold of this game this morning. So I watched the first bit this morning. And I thought, okay, no, it's horrible. I don't recommend it. And there was nothing. There was nothing in the game. Just a game of football. Nothing to see here, right? We were a bit lumpy, up front. I thought we couldn't get to the pace of the press. We didn't have enough sprinters and intensity in our game. I don't think we were present. I don't think we were engaged. That's why you saw sloppy mistakes from the goalkeeper. Being present in the moment is really important. I don't think we were there, but it doesn't matter because they weren't doing anything. Tavernier and Harajo on that side were quite tight on Trossard on a couple of occasions. They harassed him and forced him back towards his goals and kicked his ankles. What you do early in the game, you tear through someone from behind and basically you try to make them, you try to affect their touch next time they receive it. The next time it comes to Trossard, he gets fired into him, maybe from Calafiori, actually. I'm not sure, Elliot, I've lost it. And it popped up a little bit, but there's no pass appreciation on that pass. He said, I'm not going to get smashed again from behind. I'm just going to fire it backwards, right? Which I didn't think was smart. I don't think he meant to do it. Obviously, he didn't. But suddenly, Steve was standing there, and Evan Nilsson's behind him offside, but he's not offside anymore, right? Because we played the ball back. And if there's a mistake Saliba made, he ran across him. If he'd just gone back in a straight line, there was a chance he'd just win the ball. It was so quick, the pass, that Ben White's not had a chance to react, to cover round. Gabriel's ahead of the play. And so he looks so isolated. Perfect fodder for the Sky TV cameras to see the isolation. And suddenly the angles that The angles all seem to appear when we don't need them, didn't they? They had a beautiful angle appeared in 20 seconds, in flat about the situation, and we just got to accept it. I can accept this one. I'm not sure I agree with it all. It's a great clip from Dean Ashton, actually. It really sort of highlighted the problem. The proximity from the goal is really a key part of this. It's a long way away from goal. Who's to say he would even control? He never had the ball under control. He never touched the ball. He just turned and faced. And there's no guarantees he's going to win that race. So he got taken out. And I suppose I can deal with this one a little bit more, because it's a football discussion we can have. So Elliot, you can sit down over a beer and say, well, do you think he needed to foul him? Did he think this and the other? It's a football thing, and we're gonna have these discussions for the rest of our days. Interpretation of how we see an incident. For me, the two previous ones around kicking the ball away is just rubbish. That's just rubbish.
Yeah.
Sending somebody off by the corner flag when you haven't booked someone early in the game for the same offence changed the course of that game and cost us 2 points. What we did in this game was cost ourselves points, because we didn't control the ball appropriately. We didn't pass it in the right level of skill and to allow your teammate to receive it. We did this to ourselves. And yes, we were unfortunate, but we did it. And at least it's a football discussion we can have about our team selection, about our approach, our attitude, our engagement. We did this. And I'm not looking elsewhere. I can find, I honestly, if I want to, I can find something to make me feel better for half an hour. But it ain't going to change the result. I've never seen someone come back in and say, Clive, to make you feel better, I can play that game again for you. Never seen that yet. And so I've got to leave it.
Yeah, we do have to leave it behind, Clive. You're right. We hold on to these things for so long, and it's hard not to. We hold on to Rice being sent off for kicking the ball away and Leo being sent off for kicking the ball away. We're going to hold on to this. And let's face it, they don't make it easy on us. I don't like to go to conspiracy theories, but then the very next day we get what looks like a very similar yellow card type situation, and that it's not given. Tim, I will give you my truth, and then I want to hear if you agree with it or if you have a slightly different perspective. My truth is I'm okay with this being a red card if it's given a red card on the pitch. I think this is the classic example of a judgment call, how the laws of the game leave the interpretation to the referee. Distance to the goal is a factor in denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity in the laws of the game on how it should be interpreted. So I think this is one of those situations where I'd rather see a high bar for a red card, because a red card changes the game. Like if there were sin bins, give them an orange card, send them off for 10 minutes, fine. The problem is you are talking about sending a player off, distorting the contest, and then that player misses the next game. And while that can't be in the mind of the referee, you're talking about taking one of the best players in the league out of one of the showpiece games again for another time in this league, like we did with Rice in the Derby, for what I would say are very borderline infractions. If I were a referee, I'd referee a game where I'd say, what decision can I make here that will be fair, but also is the least interventionist? That's how I'd referee, right? I'd say, I don't want to abdicate my responsibilities as a referee. I want to make the decisions according to the laws of the game, but where judgment can be invoked, I'm going to use my judgment to be the least interventionist, if that makes sense, because I want to be the least talking point. And by being the least interventionist, I have the least. Leaving that game 11v11 wouldn't have ruined that game or been a travesty for Bournemouth. Making it 10v11 ruins that game and turns it into something else. Now, we still had a responsibility to win it, and I will get into that. The very next day, we see a similar call not given as red. And my biggest issue here is simply this. Because it is a judgment call, we were told all summer, what was the big directive, the big change? Higher bar for VAR intervention. We're moving to a higher bar for VAR intervention. And yet we see VAR intervene in the City game to give them a goal, which, to be fair, that might be the right application. But again, higher bar, I don't know. But it is certainly a judgment call whether Saliba should be sent off or not. And to claim that that is a clear and obvious error and to reach the high bar for intervention and recommend he go to the screen is not good. And look, I've got to bring up optics here very quickly. When referees go to Dubai to referee a game, there may be no controversy around that. There may be no bias. There may be no issue. But the optics are terrible, and the Premier League has finally figured that out, and the PGMOL has stopped them doing it because the optics are bad. The optics of a game that is the only game, pardon me, they went to Abu Dhabi to referee games, as Clive has typed into the chat. I apologize for the error there. Let me be as clear about this as I can. This is the only game going on at this time, Arsenal-Bournemouth. For the global audience to see Howard Webb with an earpiece in, touching his ear, typing into his phone, even if he's tweeting, even if he's listening to Taylor Swift, the optics are terrible, and you cannot have it. And so I think you conspire to have this situation. We get the Webb optics. The very next day, you get the Tosin yellow card situation in the Chelsea game. You get this where it's ruled on the field a yellow, and it reaches this higher bar to be overturned. And while I am fine with this being a red card, if that's how it's called on the pitch, the confluence of all of those other factors make me feel very aggrieved. And it is a third red card for what feels very, very borderline. Very borderline. And so I find myself giving in to feeling we were wronged, and I hate being there because there's plenty that we did wrong as a football team, but this is just too much for me, Tim. And that's where I land on the decision that changed the game.
Yeah, this is very much one of those two things can be true kind of thing. So in one respect, we put ourselves in that position, and I think Mikel Arteta and the coaching staff will look at that and should look at that. How and why did we put ourselves in that position? Because whether you think it's a red card or not, we're in a desperate situation there pretty much. Usually my view on these things, if I'm a ref, I let the defender make a decision before me. And if it's like a cynical tug you back foul, if I'm a ref, I'm kind of saying, you obviously thought it was a goal scoring opportunity, whereas I think it's different if you actually go for the ball. However, I'm with you, and I won't repeat what you said, why that has qualified for a VAR intervention. I don't know. And there's also this weird thing happens as well. And I know I feel it as well. It feels like people put a statute of limitations on the number of things you're allowed to complain about. So because we've had, I think the 2 red cards for Rice and Trossard are, cover your ears, people, bullshit. Utter bullshit, manufactured by idiots and held up and endorsed by idiots, quite frankly. I've got no time for anyone who thinks that those are a red card. Like, I don't think they're being serious. This one, shades of grey or whatever, but it kind of feels like, we've complained about the other 2 red cards. Maybe we're not allowed to complain about this one anymore. It's like, bollocks, of course you are. But so, yeah, like you, if it's given straight away on the field, I think there's a wider discussion that is not within the microclimate of this game. There are 2 reasons, well, there are more than that, but there are 2 big reasons we're talking about referees more. One, to your point, Howard Webb, like that guy just needs to go on Strictly Come Dancing and get it out of his system because he wants to be on. He's going to be at Arsenal Liverpool wearing a zoot suit and a pink sparkly fez. He wants to be on TV that badly. Like, I got no time for him. I got no time for what he's doing with the PGMOL. I think he's fame hungry. I think that's an incredibly bad kind of thing to be in this role. What are you doing there, pressing your fingers to your earpiece? And I think the thing about PGMOL as well, like whether you suspect foul play or not, I don't think I really do. They're just so dumb to continually put themselves in these positions. Like, because Howard Webb probably knows he's going to be on TV. That's probably why he's there, quite frankly. But letting refs go to like Abu Dhabi and stuff like that, whether there's foul play or not, just don't allow the question, you total morons. Like, what are you doing? And then even stuff like Jared, what's his name? Gillette.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, definitely not the best a man can get.
Touche.
But even he's not allowed to referee Liverpool, right? And look, I don't know how I feel about that kind of stuff. I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope. But what you do by doing that, why is he allowed to make calls on the team that Liverpool are playing next then? You've put that out there by saying he can't referee Liverpool. And we have him all the time. You do not have to put yourself in a situation where this is a question. Just appoint someone else. I don't know why we end up with him every other game. I don't think he should never referee or Arsenal or anything. I'm not but
it's an optics point, isn't it? It goes back to the optics thing. Why give people that to latch onto? You don't have to.
He's at Arsenal games more than I am, quite frankly. like if he's a Liverpool fan, he's getting a really hard deal here. He should have said someone else. But like, just like those things are just stupid. And the other wider discussion, so like PGMOL under Howard Webb, big push towards making referee interventions more meaningful. And there's stuff like in this game, I understand why each decision is given, and I've seen them given against other teams, so I'm not going conspiratorial. But really, in this game, the penalty and the red card, how much contact is there in either case? Like, the whole game is decided on the brush on someone's shirt and like a little, like a fingernail on a shoelace. And like the willingness now, and VAR is a bit responsible for this as well. Like it's taken away what you're talking about, that kind of common sense refereeing, that like, yeah, I could send this guy off for this, but the same way I could send you to prison for driving at 31 miles an hour in a 30 mile an hour zone, but that's stupid. I don't really need to do that. And it's just like the willingness to make utterly game altering calls for all clubs. This is, I think that's kind of why we're in this position. Like, I'm sorry, like, yeah, like I said, I think that penalty, I think it's given most of the time. This could be a red card, could not, seen it given, seen it not given. But like this is a wider thing than this game. Like I said, like for an entire game to be decided by those two little things in such a drastic way, I think it needs to be looked at like more conceptually, and with all clubs as well. This is a discussion all clubs should have, Premier League, Football League, all of that. Like, do we want this? Do we want hundreds of penalties every year? Do we want hundreds of red cards? Like, do people actually want that? Is like, who's been asking for that? Why have we gone to this place? Like, who asked for all this and why? And should we just take a little step back? But yeah, like ultimately from the Arsenal coaching staff point of view, the thing they can control, why are we in that situation? And this time there is a little bit of culpability for Arsenal in that respect.
100%. People struggle with the two things can be true thing. It is the thing that destroys football discourse more than anything else, which is it can be true that Trossard makes a terrible error, that Saliba makes a terrible judgment call, that we weren't playing well with 11 men, that we didn't play well with 10 men, and also be true that there's an absolute screw job and it looks like another miscarriage of justice to me. I'm okay with it being red if it's ruled red on the pitch. I'm not okay with VAR intervening. And then we get the situation with Tosin the next day. You couldn't draw it up. I think optics are another great point. If you're Howard Webb, when you go to a ground to watch a game, you need to say to the TV people, I don't want to be noticed here. I'm going to sit somewhere where I'm hard to find. Please don't put me on camera. I'm here to observe my referees, not to be the story. The fact that they knew
we know he's in contact with those people as well, quite a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's got a show with them, mate. Like, I'm going to tell you something. The fact that they were ready to queue up a full screen shot of Howard Webb at the first controversial decision means they know where he's sat. They know where to put him on camera. These are people that are meant to be seen or not seen and not heard. The less you know who the referees are, the better. So they're not doing themselves any favors. And by the way, this is a league, Clive, where I had to grow up as an Arsenal fan listening to pundits say, I'd rather have my ankle broken than be spat on. Remember when Cesc spat? And they used to say, I'd rather have my ankle broken than be spat on. Because this is the English Premier League, blood and thunder. Now they're like, well, he tapped the ball after the restart. He's got to go. He's got to go. Like suddenly, I love statistics. There were 72 red cards in the Premier League on Saturday and Sunday. 72. I'm kidding. There were a lot, though. A lot of red cards. We've had 3 red cards this season. We haven't put in a bad challenge. Well, I think Kai Havertz put in a bad challenge somewhere, didn't he? Maybe was it against Villa somewhere? I don't know. Bad touch, or was that last season? I'm thinking. I don't know. Yeah, last season. There you go. They all blend together. Moral of the story is we haven't put in a bad challenge. We've been down to 10 men 3 times, and it's just it distorts these games and it distorts the analysis. And suddenly teams say we play dark arts and we don't attack well. We don't. Who knows? To win a title, you've got to be really good. You've got to win a lot of games, obviously score a lot of goals, keep clean sheets, yada, yada, yada. But you also, to win a title, need a couple of things to go for you. You need like what just went for City, right? 90 plus 5 plus a little extra plus VAR intervenes and you get a goal that gives you 3 instead of 1 point. Saka's out, Odegaard's out, Rice has been suspended for games. Now Saliba's going to miss the Liverpool game. And the worry I'm starting to develop a little bit is we're going to have to turn this around quick. We need to get healthy. That's no one's fault, but it's got to happen. And we need to stop having these decisions go against us through whatever efforts we can make to stop it. And also just hopefully it goes against us, because Mikel made the point in his post-match comments. He said, playing for 65, 68 minutes with 10 men at this level is just an impossible task, an accident waiting to happen to not get the points. With 11 men, we probably get 3 against City. What could that have meant in the title race? With 11, we certainly get 3 against Brighton, and maybe we get them against Bournemouth. I am starting to worry that we're making it too hard. We've got to get to a run of fixtures where we play 11v11 with a fit squad, because I don't think you can get to 92 points doing it this way. You know what I mean?
You don't think? Well, let me take it one bit further. I know we won't get to 92 points doing it this way. It's too emotional, it's too draining, and it's too ridiculous, actually. And the way you two discuss referee stuff was excellent. I didn't want to go there, so now I've got to go back to my counsellor tonight about which one I just left from the Declan Rice incident, and so now I'm back in, right? So yeah, it's I'm trying not to think about all the stuff that I know. I just try not to think about it, because it does me no favors. It really doesn't. And but I know I am one of those people. I look around and I watch other teams, I watch other games, and I suppose every fan thinks the referee different. But I do think Arsenal have had a rough go at it. Definitely have a rough go at it. For what we're trying to achieve and how we're trying to play. You know, and now the manager has to sit there and say and answer questions about discipline, and the old red card record comes up since Boxing Day when he joined. How many red cards we've had? We need to. Some of those red cards have been on us, and some of them we need to really look at and say, why is it happening? You know, why is it happening to us? But no one who's of a non-Arsenal persuasion, listen to me, have a little wind up, is gonna give me more than 10 seconds. And I see him in the YouTube comments. Literally, that's what's going to happen, right? They don't care. Honestly, no one cares. They don't care. They find it funny. In fact, the next narrative is already starting. Why can't Arsenal win with 10 men? That's the next narrative. Do you know what I mean? You know, and that's what needs to happen. We need to be held to a higher standard. We need to win with 10. Now, we can talk about our attitude at 10. We can have that discussion around adaptation and making substitutions. But now we have to win with 10. Because we're Arsenal. I sometimes think to myself, you know, we're trying to do something here, which I think is a really, really wonderful project that's been started and come to fruition. The way we've done it's going to be copied by many other clubs. But we haven't won the big trophies yet. We haven't won the Premier League for 20 years. And we've never won the Champions League. So we're trying to achieve these things. I sometimes think the way we're spoken about, it's as if we've won 5 in a row. You know, we need to stop these. We need to stop them. You know, hold on, we're just trying to win. You know, well, when is this? We haven't done it yet. We want to do it. We really definitely do it, but we haven't done it.
Of course, you're right, Clive. We haven't done it yet, and we need to. But unlike last season, and certainly the season before, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of forgiveness or grace if we don't. There's this attitude like, oh, we got to 89 points last season, get to 93 this season and win the title. Easy. Rodri's out. Oh, it's going to happen. And now all of this stuff is happening, these red cards and these injuries, and we're really doing it on hard mode. A lot of the things that went pretty smoothly right for us last season, let's not forget, we got a lot of penalties last season. We haven't had a single penalty this season either. They're not going as right this season. So this has to turn around. Whether you want to blame it on Arsenal or luck, you need a little of that to win a title. And if it's got to turn around, and you know, next weekend would be a good time for that to start. You know,
yeah. When we talk about 2024 and what we've done this year, and the fact we've not lost a game for don't know how many months, and you know, not lost an away game this calendar year, you quickly forget the Fulham, West Ham, Liverpool in the cup period when we thought we're never going to score again. Out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? West Ham, 77 touches in the box, lose a game 2-0. Fulham turned up, go 1-0 up, high five, everyone happy, Christmas time, let's go and have a drink, lose the game 2-1. Don't know what's happening. Liverpool, we are a little bit better in the FA Cup. We find a new system, didn't quite manifest itself in that game, but we saw some really positive things. We lose the game again towards the end of the game, and suddenly we're in a little bit of trouble. And then we find our way again, and we can barely remember those 3 games. Barely remember them. And Bournemouth is probably the first time I've looked at them and thought, since Fulham that we've not looked at it, you know. But I still think we'd have won. Like I did at Villa and Spurs, I still think we'd have won. And all the issues I have with selection and balance, I wouldn't be saying anything because we'd have won the game, you know. And we'd be talking about the performance of a Marino and what the balance looked like and how much time Sterling gave us. We'd probably be talking about a good half hour of Gabriel Jesus, you know. And we just have to hold it. We have to take it. We have to take it on the chin and go again. And it's incredibly frustrating, particularly when you watch the other games over the weekend. You watch the City game, and by the way, there was a time we were playing like that, and people were saying we're too emotional, too early, you know, and getting last minute winners at Villa, etc. Remember the 4-2? We were too emotional, we're too happy, you know, and then you watch Liverpool, and I watch Liverpool closely because I'm interested in them, like we all are, and I thought they were fine. I didn't think they were great. I thought they were fine. I don't see anything there. I actually thought City were quite dominant from an attacking point of view for the phases of the game. I was actually quite impressed with them and their position and how they played on the pitch and their attacking mindset to have more people up the pitch and take a risk defensively. I thought, you know what, we could take something from that. But I didn't see anything we can't handle. I don't look at them on the mountaintop and think we can't get there. But the reason why we're not there, for me, it's very unfair referee decision for 2 kicking the ball away. Absolutely ridiculous for second yellows. And a 50-50 call. Let's just call it that. Let's just call it that so I can sleep tonight. Can we call it that?
That was giving yellow on the pitch. I can't let it go.
Yeah, well, I know you're right. You said it beautifully. You say it so well, I can't get it out of my head. You know what I mean? You're absolutely right. But we have to move forward. And if we don't, we're not going anywhere. Honestly, we're not going anywhere.
I just think it's so important to remember last season, late winner against Luton, late winner against United, right? The Garnacho offside that Erik ten Hag couldn't stop talking about, right? All those penalties that we got. We blew teams away the second half of the season, but the first half of the season, we got points with a lot of things that went our way. Saliba playing every single minute in the Premier League. This season, Odegaard out for months, Saka out for critical moments. Right? Declan Rice out for the derby, 10 men against City when it could have been a win and wound up being a draw. Brighton should have been a win, wound up being a draw. This game, who knows what it would have been, wound up being a loss and wind up losing Saliba for the Liverpool game. It just feels like too many things are going the wrong way. And as Mikel said, I like the way he said it, it's an accident waiting to happen. You can have accidents waiting to happen when you need to get to 79 points or 84 points. When you need to get to 93, 94 points, we know the standards are so high. And so I just hope that we can get into a moment where not only are we doing things right, but things are going right. And Tim, I think we need to shift our attention to how we played with 10 men, and we've been going a while. So let's do a palate cleanser here. And nothing cleans the palate like an ad break. So I'll say it this way. We've got Shopify to tell you about, and Shopify is one of these things that I think, look, it doesn't apply to everyone. If you're not someone trying to start an e-commerce business, then it's not for you. But if you've ever wanted to sell your art or sell your baked goods or sell your t-shirts or mugs or merch or whatever it is, if you've ever wanted to start a business, if you have a little business and you want to sell on Instagram, you see all these people selling on Instagram and they're killing it. Shopify lets you plug into Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and all of these things. Shopify makes it easy to create a professional looking site so people feel confident spending with you. It also handles things like when you go to check out in the cart, it says, hey, you left something in your cart. Do you want to check out or do you want to add this? It takes care of the shipping and the taxing and stuff. So you don't have to be an expert in business, just an expert in your product, your service, whatever it is you're trying to sell. Shopify is the way to do it. And now you can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase, now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And Saily, S-A-I-L-Y, Saily. It's a weird name, I'm going to admit, Nord, but it is from the folks at NordVPN, and it is a really cool eSIM app. It's an app you can get on Android or iPhone. It works in 160 countries across 8 regions. Have you ever bought a physical SIM card to put into a phone when you travel or tried to figure out what eSIM to get? There's a lot of scam SIMs out there, by the way. With the Saily app, you just say where you're going, you get an eSIM, you save money when you're using your phone in a foreign country, and it works just like you're from that country, unlike my plan, which got raised the per day rate for global travel, and I didn't even know that until I got back from a trip. That was no fun. So once you do the one-time app download, you just choose the plan that fits your your needs, follow the in-app instructions, and install the eSIM. Most new phones now don't even have a physical SIM, so you need this anyway. Right now, get an exclusive 15% discount on Saley eSIM data plans. 15%! Download Saley app and use code ArsenalVision at checkout, or go to saley.com/ArsenalVision. That's SAILY.com. SAILY.com, code ArsenalVision. Do it now. And last but not least, this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. I've been talking about therapy to a lot of people recently. In fact, I had a conversation with a friend about, just getting into therapy and the importance of it. And frankly, I think the best way to do therapy is in an office with a therapist. It's how I did it when I first did it. But let's be honest, you have to drive there. You have to find one. They have to be a good fit for you. You have to have the time to go there and come back. What if you have kids? What if the job doesn't allow it? What if it's far away? You have to have the resources to spend that, and you have to have the comfort level to do it. Or you can do it from the comfort of your own home, online, with the camera off if you want. You can match with different people until you find the right match, even one in your area of need. And I think it is just a part of a healthy lifestyle, just like eating well and exercise. Keep your mind healthy. Discover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/vision today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/vision. Do it now, Clive. Is enough of that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Tim. Okay. 10 men. Look, to me, the 10 men thing comes down to a couple of things, and we'll try to touch on them quickly and get out of here with some stuff on the rest of the stuff happening in the league. He takes off Sterling and he brings on Kiwior. And I personally don't like that. First of all, I thought Sterling was giving us a little bit of 1v1 dynamism, a little bit of explosiveness. I think he is obviously a tricky player. It says to me that he didn't necessarily trust Sterling yet to be up to the level of fitness and concentration and preparation to do the work we need to do off the ball. Fair enough. I think the move was you take Trossard off and you bring Martinelli on if he's fit to, otherwise Jesus. And I think you take off Marino and you bring on Kiwior. So I think you take off one of those three behind the ball center mids and you bring on a defender and you just 4-4-1. 4-4-1. So then all you've really lost is the second forward. Okay, you're not going to attack as well, but now Kai can drop into midfield where we know he's comfortable. He can step forward into the attack. You've got the width with Sterling and Martinelli to still give them trouble on the counter. With Rice and Partey, or Rice and Marino, or Marino and Partey, whoever you want to keep onto those two, you've got plenty of ability to still contest the midfield, and you've got four defenders on. That's what I would have liked to have seen. Tell me why I'm an idiot and I don't understand football. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but in this particular case.
Yeah, I guess what I'd like to have seen is maybe Rice step back into centre half or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, just have a couple.
No Kiwior at all. Just
Yeah. Put someone else on. I'm kind of fine with taking Sterling off. I do think he was probably the most expendable player. And ultimately, this sometimes happens when you have players on loan. You don't have to keep them happy, you know? So it's like, if I've got to take someone off on 30 minutes, it's you, mate, because you're not going to be here next year. Like, either having someone on loan or someone whose contract's running down, you don't have to worry about keeping them happy. But anyway, like Rice at centre, and just have a couple of hybrid positions maybe where Havertz is, off the ball. Perhaps he's back in midfield, but when we go forward, he goes forward. I mean, he does that anyway. And same for Rice. When we're being attacked, he drops, or rather, he stays where he is, but maybe with a license to step forward with the ball, which he's really good at. He's really good at carrying the ball. And then when he's got it at his feet and he takes the ball for a walk, then, maybe we're in more of a back three. We asked Calafiori to tuck in. He's been a centre-half. He knows how to do that. We can ask Ben White to tuck in. He's been a centre-half. He knows how to do that. Like, we're getting this kind of 3 DMs and 4 CBs stuff thrown at us, even though Calafiori has literally never played centre-back for us. And Ben White has played there once in the last 3 years, and that was for an end-of-season game against Nottingham Forest. But anyway, so I think really I'd prefer to have taken a chance with a couple of hybrid positions and say, this is who we are when Bournemouth have the ball, and this is who we are when we have the ball. Of course, it's difficult. It's difficult. Like, whenever you go down to 10, someone has to play a bit of a hybrid position. We asked that of Martinelli against Man City, where it's like, you're the left-back, mate. But the few times we get the ball out the area, you go and be the left winger. Thank you very much. Like, you have to ask that of players sometimes. So yeah, but particularly if there'd been a better defensive option, like I said earlier, one of those 3 players that was out, even Zinchenko, because Zinchenko, that's kind of a defender and a midfielder at the same time anyway. And you can just ask him to, within a bit of a framework, just go and be Zinchenko. But with Kivior there and putting him in, relatively, I know he's played right centre back for Arsenal before, but there's a long time ago. I think we're a different team then anyway as well. Like, yeah, I'd have rather rolled the dice on those hybrid positions and then say, look, Rice, Havertz, once again, we're asking a lot of you, but maybe on Tuesday night, we reward you with a nice sit down because of what we're going to ask you to do in this game. And that's personally, that's the way I'd have gone about it.
Fair enough. I think there's a lot of frustration, I think, with how we play with 10 men in some games and the extent to which we give up possession and really bunker down. Now, to be fair, against City and Brighton, we had leads we were protecting. In this game, we didn't. Paul made the point, Clive, on the instant reaction, maybe a fair one that I would have to revisit without the emotion of the moment, that while we really struggled with 10 men at the end of the first half, which is understandable, it was a shock, we came out of halftime and looked much more comfortable with how we approached it. Granted, Semenyo had a big chance immediately after halftime, but then we were starting to grow into the game, I think, and maybe be a little bit of a driving force. And maybe they were shadowboxing a little too, trying to get us to come out a little more and exploit some space. Hard to know. So what do you think about the changes we made and the way we played with 10 men, at least up until they got the goal?
Yeah, we played with more purpose, a bit more aggressive, a bit more forward thinking, because we got ourselves into trouble going backwards, didn't we? And I think we were just trying to control the game by having false control, by having possession. And for me, that's why I described it as 7 behind the ball players and 3 ahead of the ball players. When we lost one of those behind the ball players, we still had 6 people behind the ball, and we could have just kept a forward on. I didn't agree with Sterling coming off. I thought he could stay on for longer. You need to pose a threat to the opposition. By taking Sterling off, that means we only had 2 attacking players on the pitch. That's just not enough. That's just not enough. It's not enough to win a game. What message are you sending? The other team becomes emboldened. They get after you. They get tighter. They squeeze up. You have to have attacking threat. So you took Sterling off. Whether we think Sterling is in tip-top shape or not, he was praised this game by the manager. I had a funny feeling he would start because he's obviously done well in training. And again, based on information that I have, I'm wanting to see Jesus play, but maybe he's been playing keepy-ups in training, not doing his job, right? I don't know, right? So that's why he maybe didn't start. So Sterling has started, and I felt sorry for him coming off so quickly, because he never had a chance to really impose himself again. If he even does 55 minutes and we make changes, again, the manager explained that Martinelli didn't start due to his injury that he cost him 6 weeks last year. He's telling us information that we don't have as to why he didn't start. And trust me, I need him. We all need him against Liverpool next Sunday, don't we? Because that's his game, right? So I felt we had enough defensive people on the pitch to make adjustments. But if we are going to bring Kivior on, which I was calling for in my head, I was calling for him at left back, by the way, not at centre back. I thought Calafiori could have gone over there because I think he's more dominant personality. I think we have central dominance. People not afraid in the moment. Kivior's an exterior player for me now, and in his state of mind, not a central player. So I would have gone the other way around. So I was calling for Kivior, but I was calling for Mourinho to come off because I felt he was in the most foreign position. He was playing almost like a second striker, and I didn't think that was working. So in my gut feeling, I'm thinking, keep Sterling on, keep Trossard on, keep Havertz on, and then take Mourinho out, and then have 4 defenders and say, right, we're coming for you. And that's what I'd have done. But hey, look, there's so many options. I heard Andrew say it's more about maybe just bring Partey into right back and then bring Mourinho back into midfield. And we got these options now because we've seen a lot of them, haven't we? And they've worked in the main. They didn't work this time because we made mistakes. And it's the mistakes we have to cut out. So the message is, stop doing dumb stuff. No, seriously, stop doing dumb stuff. Whether we think the referees are after us or not, stop being dumb. Keep on the pitch, because we don't drop anything when we got 11. So I don't like the referee environment. I don't like what's happening around our club at the moment. I don't like the feeling around us. I don't like it. But we mustn't give anyone a chance to take us out of a game. We just got to be better than this, better in front of goal, better in our passing, better in our defending, and take these people away from ruining our afternoons.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I think there's little bits and pieces here. I don't like Trossard as much as a wide player, especially when he's playing as like the touchline winger. You know, if he gets to play more as like a half space player and he's drifting across the box, that's one thing. You know, I don't love this role for him. Clive, you want to come back on that?
Well, mate, I agree. I think when he's on the outside, he gets smashed. Right? And when he's on the inside, smash me if you like, but he's going to get a good free kick. Or it's a much more dangerous thing when you're running centrally. I think he shows really well in those central areas. But we haven't got the players fit. And for me, that's why my Jesus cool. I think he's better out there. I think he's more individualistic. I think he's happier being wider. And Trossard, for me, has created a relationship with Havertz that's really been positive. So I wouldn't have broke that out. I mean, like I say, I don't know everything. We don't know the plan. We never saw the plan. It feels like a Brighton game, doesn't it? We were squeezing him into the second half and we were getting excited and then bang, game change. And we then podcast about the 7 minutes or so. We didn't adjust quickly enough and we analysed that. And then we end up dropping 2 points when we are never dropping points that day. It's down to us. In the end, it's down to us. We have to carry the blame. We can't change the idiots up in Manchester. We can't change them, right? We can't change those referees. We can't. But we can change our own behaviours.
Well, there is one thing we can change, and that's scoring a goal when we have a clear chance. And Martinelli had it. Tim, it is tough because when a game is tight, we make it seem like every easy chance should be scored. Let's not forget, one of the reasons we have a win at Villa this season is because Ollie Watkins missed 2 chances, but one, a chance that we expect to have buried against us 9 times out of 10. And it cuts both ways, right? Because, I mean, we got pegged back against Leicester by a goal that won't be scored again this season, right? It cuts both ways. Let's be clear. Bournemouth get their lead through a sensational free kick routine that also still has every chance to be blocked or deflected or not go in. But it happens like 1 minute after the Martinelli chance. It was a corner kick routine, by the way, of course, yeah. It happens 1 minute after the Martinelli chance, which just exacerbates the frustration. My frustration with Martinelli there is he has made up his mind about the finish he's going with. And it's just completely there to go near post. It's easy. Roll it in. The keeper is only covering that finish, that side foot far post finish. He's nowhere at the near post, and the reverse angle shows it. Martinelli has half the goal to roll it into. That's me, non-footballer, saying it, not in the moment, not having just come on the pitch, not with all that pressure. But he takes it first time with the finish he loves, the side foot curler to the far post, and that is not on. It makes it look like a good save. I don't even think it's a good save. I think he hits it to where the keeper is coming back to. And he's got the whole other part of the goal to aim at. This is tough analysis because, Tim, players miss chances. You cannot sit there and be like, never miss a chance. The clinical striker would have finished that. Ollie Watkins missed. He kicked it off his standing leg from the penalty spot with an open goal. They miss chances. I don't think Erling Haaland has scored a goal since the stay humble comment. At least not in the league. So what do you think of that moment, and how willing are you to sort of get stuck in because of the miss?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad miss. He snatches at it. Really, maybe because he's not been on that long, maybe because of his calf and he doesn't want to take a touch and run. He wants to hit it standing. I don't know. Maybe he just messes up. It happens in life, kind of thing. So, like those misses happen. They just do. I'm kind of in isolation. I'm fine with it. You can't escape it, can you? When you're down to 10 men, you're not going to create very much, and that puts an onus on you. And I'm really sorry if this is going to cause PTSD for anyone, but Thierry Henry goes through 1-on-1 in the Champions League final when we're down to 10 men, when it's 1-0. And
I'm calling that counsellor right now.
Thanks for that, Tim. You've calmed us all right down. Thank you.
Yeah, it's too bad we don't have a sponsorship with some kind of online therapy service or anything. But yeah, like those happen. It's just when you're down to 10 men, you're not going to get many bites at the apple. And so it's the context, not the actual finish, that kind of does that. And really, Martinelli's not a bad finisher. He's gotten better recently, but it's probably one you want to fall to Trossard in that moment. And inside the pitch, that's who I'd have chosen if I could have chosen anyone pretty much in the squad, quite frankly, let alone in the team on the day. And you look at like Kai Havertz's goal against, was it Southampton or the Leicester game? Southampton game, the equaliser, where it's, touch inside, smash it in off the post. That's a guy who's doing it, and is feeling it. And Martinelli, perhaps not. Perhaps he would have been if he'd been starting. Perhaps he would have put it away if he didn't have a bit of an ouchie on his calf. But, we're going to win games 5-0 this year and miss worse chances than that. It's the context that makes it painful. I don't think it makes it a worse miss. It just makes it a more painful one.
When you don't create enough, also that's just the whole talking point. Everybody, there's this attitude when you create one chance in a game, we should have scored and we should have won. But we know this is not true. The reason we win a lot of games is by creating a ton of chances. Why did we beat Leicester and Southampton? Because we just battered them until eventually they went in. You know what I mean? When you create 3 expected goals, eventually you're probably going to score 2 or 3 goals. When you create next to nothing, the one thing you do create becomes huge. But guys, Semenyo had just as big a chance right after halftime he could have scored. That's the thing about being like, Martinelli should have given us the lead. Well, Semenyo should have given them the lead. You know what I mean? He shouldn't sky that. He should put that in the back of the net. So if you're going to say Martinelli should have scored, you have to say Semenyo should have scored. My issue with this is not that Martinelli. I mean, look, Martinelli should score. Of course, you have to score from there. My issue is how we played and not creating enough and not dominating the opportunities. So, Clive, what about, we go behind. It's a great routine. Then we have to chase. The game was just destroyed at that point. But I mean, I don't feel we pushed on enough, even if we were better after halftime with 10 men. But Mikel has said it. When you're down to 10 men, anything can happen in the Premier League. Bournemouth are a good side. You're away. You're down to 10 men. You can't keep overcoming that hurdle, Yeah,
I think in normal circumstances, Tim would be in the ground. And I messaged him and said, were the subs warming up at 0-0? Where were they? Because I'd want to know that. I'd want to know we're about to make changes, etc. And I think we just got our change on a little bit too late, and it was that 2-0 rather than 1-0. And we saw a bit more of Arsenal, but they obviously were scoreboard watching and they dropped off a little bit. So we saw some ingenuity on the football. I think that's what we were lacking. I honestly felt that against Southampton. Strangely enough, I felt we looked a little bit passy, and I always looked to break these teams. I always look for carriers and runners, and there were occasions I thought, okay, this is good, but I want us to be a little bit more creative, and we're missing some creative players. So there's nothing we can do about it. It's just where we are. Elliot, I heard your words just now. The context of the game is we just had a player less. I do think though, there is a discussion to have about, are we too cautious in these scenarios? I'm not sure where I am with it. Could we? Do you want to go down swinging, or do you want to jab away until you get that one moment and then take it? I suppose I'll take whichever one worked on the day, then I'll praise it, but I have to think to myself, okay, I really liked how we overcame the Odegaard thing, and I liked the system that we had. We go down to 10. I think there were better options to keep, in the first 11, to have one more attacker in the first 11 for me. And I definitely think once he went down to 10, I think there's an option to keep at least 3-4 players on the pitch, and we chose not to. So is that message that we're sending a cautious one? The rest of the league really respects us. They really do. We're a good side. Don't mess about. We're a good side. We're a bit unfortunate at the moment, a bit dumb on occasions, but we're a good side. But we have to really say, yeah, we're good, and we're gonna defend with 2. See what you got, and we're gonna push on to you. And we're going to play in your half. We're going to push on to you. I think we need to really up our offensive belief. If you look at us from 30,000 feet, for me, you look at this team and we need something to appear offensively in this team. And some of that's health and fitness. And some of that's in Jesus, Sterling, Martinelli. Martinelli's a lot closer to being back. Jesus and Sterling, we're waiting. We're waiting. Right? And we need them. They're very important to this team. Very important to keep our attackers fresh. And they're very important to have their moment. So that's what my worry is. Maybe unfairly, people say, "What about Saka?" Well, but we know how good Saka is, right? But we need those two to step up. Otherwise, I fear the burden on our primary players is going to be too great, and we'll have them on the team sheet, and they won't be able to move because they'll be overworked. And so it's a very important squad moment, and there's going to be a discussion in January about what we need to do. And if we're going to do anything, it will be in forward areas. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Look, I think you can have addition by subtraction. I think you can lose Eddie Nketiah and lose Smith Rowe and lose Reece Nelson and get better because you add Sterling and Jesus is fit and you get better as a group. But if Jesus isn't trusted, if the trust isn't really there, if Nwaneri is still coming into his role, but he's not really totally trusted all the way, it's not addition by subtraction. It's just subtraction. And the group is light. And so it really depends where these players are. And Tim, that's become a bit of a talking point in the wake of this game is Nwaneri's role. You have any issue with him not coming on sooner or not being involved from the start or just not having been involved as much as people maybe would like? I find myself thinking he's looked fantastic when he's played, and yet no one's going to have a better sense of his development and where he is in his readiness than the manager who sees him in training every day. And with the 17-year-old, I'm inclined to give the benefit of the doubt to that manager because we are projecting based on all we see through a keyhole. You know what I mean? We've seen so little. But again, he did look very bright when he's on. So do you have any issue with him maybe not being more trusted? I mean, at some point, the group is small. We have to use what we have.
Yeah. It's really funny, actually, because now I record a women's pod before I record these and a very similar discussion about Rose Kafaji, actually, for the women's team. But I wrote a piece about this, and I know I said this on the podcast a few weeks ago as well. Like with young players, it's never as instant as people remember. Like all of those young players that you're going to cite to me and say, "Oh, they came straight in." They didn't. I've got news for you. They did not come straight in. Mm-hmm. They had like a season either on loan somewhere or just playing like the odd cup game before they exploded. I think there's more of a case for this. I wouldn't necessarily have started Nwaneri in this game. I think that would have been a big call. I think maybe you could say, well, maybe one of the Southampton or Leicester games, and if he starts that, then perhaps he is in a better position to come on sooner in this game. But you're right, like the thing with this kind of youth development, there's so much that's not visible to us because this happens so often, right? And I can't really sit here and tell you why, but I've had this discussion so many times over the last 30 odd years I've been watching football. Young player is brought in slowly and we're all going, why? Play him now kind of thing. And the truth is managers never do it. Never. They always have this little period where we're impatient and they're a bit holding back, and there has to be a reason for it. I can't sit here and tell you what that reason is because I'm not on the training ground, but there has to be a reason for it because everyone does it all the time and always has done forever and ever. So there has to be a good reason for it. But I can understand why we didn't start. Again, maybe he was part of the plan. Like in the 11v11 scenario, maybe it was we'll be a bit stodgy for 60, 70 minutes, then we'll bring him on when it's 0-0 with 20 minutes to go. I do have a bit of an issue with the subs at 2-0, quite frankly, when I think they should have happened at 1-0, because at that point, the game's in the pattern it's in. At that point, you've got to throw your car keys on the roulette table and put your mortgage on it. That's just the stage of the game you're in when you're 1-0 down with 10 men. There's no, at that stage of the game anyway, there's no caginess anymore. You have to go. You have to, and be damned that you might get done 2-0, which we do anyway. Like we stay cagey and stodgy, and we get done 2-0 anyway. Like we might, I think it's not ideal, and you're probably not going to succeed doing it because the odds are against you. But you have to do it. You have to throw your car keys on the table, bet your shirt, bet your mortgage, and everything. And I think not doing that till 2-0 was an exercise in futility at that point anyway. But do it at 1-0 on 70 minutes. That's probably the one definite issue I take away from this game that I don't really have a caveat for.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's entirely fair. In general, I just thought that the changes maybe could have been better, could have been sooner, could have been sharper. But as we know, 10 men is not a situation you want to find yourself in. And when you find yourself in it level, away from home, that's hard. Once you're down, it gets really tricky because chasing the game, things can go bad. We did get the bad moment from Kivior. It's a mistake. Mistakes can happen. We then also get the subbed, which never looks nice, but that has nothing to do with the mistake he's made. That just has to do with chasing the game. And now we have to take a defender off. I've been pretty clear on this pod for a long time that Kivior is the player for me that probably from a level standpoint is maybe just below where we are as a group at this moment. And I think, it's harsh to add to that based on this error. Ultimately, I don't think that game was getting turned around, but that certainly ends it. I think it's a penalty for sure, even if the player does his bit to earn it, but we'd want it the other way. That's when I don't have an issue with it all. I think it's a penalty. I think we can start to wrap the game and just look ahead a little bit. Clive, any quick word, though, on the Nwaneri component of it? I do think he is going to have some opportunities, both with the Shakhtar game tomorrow and the Preston game next week, to make himself even more in the manager's thoughts.
Yeah, well, he's on his way. We haven't got to, the air quotes, we haven't got to fall out about how many minutes he should have. He's coming, right? And that's it. So we just have to trust the club. They know what they're doing regarding its integration. And I think Tim's absolutely right. I think he would have played a part in this game, quite a significant part in this game. So
yeah.
We just never got to that period to see it. So which is a real shame because that environment, that tight pitch at Bournemouth, for me, it's a small space game, always is. And I thought we picked a big space team, a big team. And we needed a smaller space team. That's my view. Yeah. I just had that feeling. But we were robbed. We were robbed from seeing at least something appear. So it's false analysis. So his time will come. And as soon as he does something good, we're going to say, I knew he should have played at Bournemouth. I knew it. I said it. I was right. And just think when events happen, you're always right. Similar to the Kivior thing earlier, I think he should have come on left back, not a right centre back. I don't think he's in the right phase at the moment in his career to go into that position on his wrong foot, where I think Calafiori's got far much more personality to drop inside there and play. He didn't give a monkeys. He wouldn't stand there anyway. So, it's just the way it is. It's football, right? Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
That does raise an interesting question. We're going to have to play Liverpool without Saliba, which sucks. Again, another big game where we just have to try to figure things out because some refereeing decision, whether we agree with it or not. And so he's going to have to make a decision how he wants to handle that again, assuming Ben White and Gabriel are fit, fingers crossed, and Timber comes back, fingers crossed. But that's borderline. You prefer Timber at center back to White?
Oh, yes. Not even take me 0.1 of a second to work that out. Ben White's a true fullback now. Obviously, he can play inside, but Timber, we saw him in the summer. He don't care, mate. He'll stand there. And that's it. He can play there. He's got the personality. He's got I call it the last man gene. He's happy being the last guy to get past. Right? He's got that in him. And so, yeah, that's for me. The weekend, if we can get Timber back and Calafiori and Gabriel and Ben White, I'm very, very comfortable with that as a back four. The rest of the team will take care of itself. To get Saka back would be nice. Keep Martinelli, that would be nice too. And the rest is really simple. We're a good side. We just got to stop doing dumb stuff.
The funny thing for Liverpool, we'll have plenty of time to preview Liverpool, but this midfield that he picked, I'd be a lot more comfortable with it for Liverpool, because I think Liverpool's potential weakness is they might be lightweight in midfield, where they've got a bunch of 8/10s running around in there. And if we put our big men with sideburns, bank manager guys, like you like to call them, Clive, and put them in there to bosh some people, I think you could really win that area. I'd like it a lot more with a Martinelli out wide, right, than a Trossard, which I don't think works. But that's one we'll have to figure out. I think that could also protect a back four that will look a little bit reconfigured. We'll have to see what the manager wants to do for that. But Tim, I'll ask you a weird question. Is it possible that even though the results were terrible for us this weekend, that maybe there's a silver lining of reassurance here, in that Manchester City needed the ref and extra time on top of extra time to beat the bottom team? They still don't look like they totally know how to play without Rodri, and they're definitely far from clicking. Now the points are the points, but it is what it is. They didn't look fantastic. And Liverpool, I actually thought, were second best. They won. They got away with it, but I thought they were second best to Chelsea. Is there a little silver lining that and a reminder, by the way, that coming back from international break is hard. City found it hard. We found it hard. I mean, teams don't just come in and slot right in. Is there a little silver lining that, all things being equal, the way we looked 11v11 and the way Liverpool and City looked over this weekend, actually, this is still going to be a very, very close competition between teams that I still think we might be better than, especially City without Rodri?
Yeah, definitely. Stay in it, and variance is coming for them too. Basically, Liverpool got variance when they lost at home to Nottingham Forest. Don't think they were amazing yesterday. City weren't amazing in this game. They were very far from amazing against Fulham or Newcastle. I know you could look at that both ways. You could say, well, actually, Pep will probably come up with a solution at one point, and they're putting points on the board while they're figuring it out. But I tend to more on the kind of, they'll get varianced. At some stage, we've been varianced a little bit. So, stay in touch. Don't get so far behind that stops mattering. But that will come for them, and it came for us last year as well, right? That little period, Fulham away last year, that wasn't a variancing. We were rubbish, and to be fair, this one maybe felt a little bit more towards Fulham last year. But West Ham, we got variance. It will happen to those teams. We just got to make sure we're in a position to do something about it when it does, and it's very early in the season. That Villa game we lose in April, there's just no time to recover it when it happens to you in April. But when it happens to you in October, you can. And City, they went to Aston Villa. They lost at Wolves last year, about this time last year. They lost to us, and then they went to Villa and lost. But after that, they didn't lose again. And, we've just got to stay. When you look at the years Arsenal win the league, 2003-04, we were third on Christmas Day. 2001, 2002, I think we were third on Christmas Day as well, but we stayed in touch, and then we put it together in the second half of the season. That is usually how teams win the league. So for me, stay in touch, all of that, get our players back and everything like that. And then, hope that we have one of these weekends soon. Maybe we win on Sunday. I don't know who City. City have got Southampton, so that's going to be 3 points for them. But then again, maybe City get the variance in this fixture. Maybe they're fine and they batter Southampton. It just doesn't happen for them. They're due that. They really are. There's to your point, it has been a slightly unlucky period in some ways, but the message I'd go with if I was Arteta is we've dropped points in 3 games this season. They're all the ones where we've gone down to 10 men, so let's just try and stop doing that. And whatever they feel about some of those red cards, and we have every right to rage about some of them, so I keep saying Arteta and the coaching staff, and I believe this from what he said afterwards, they will take accountability for it, because it happened a couple of seasons ago, right? We picked up loads of red cards and some of them were ridiculous, but then the next season they stopped happening. And I think that's because Arteta is not someone who punches, who shakes his fist at the sky and rages at the world. I think he's very logical and practical, and I think he'll say, okay, how do we stop this from happening? And usually he comes up with an answer, so let's hope he does again.
Yeah, well said. And maybe just little bits of luck. For example, when we had to go to City, we had to play away on a Thursday in the Champions League. City played at home on a Wednesday. We play Tuesday this week at home, Clive. And Liverpool, They play Leipzig away on Wednesday. That's a game that's going to test them. They can't rotate. They're going to have to be full strength, I would think. By the way, if you want to see just how quickly things can turn, have a look at Liverpool's run of fixtures between now and the end of the calendar year.
Yep.
The hard time is coming for them. And does Salah pull up with a little muscular issue or a Van Dijk? City are without Rodri. What if Haaland goes down for a bit? There's a lot of the story still to be told, and we've gone this far in the story without Odegaard, without Saka at periods, without Rice at period, without Timber, Calafiori, Marino. So we have to think forward, get fit, stop making silly mistakes, because on talent and preparation, I think we can still do it, certainly. Last bit, Shakhtar. Tomorrow, Clive, I just think rotate as much as you want. Like, honestly, here's what's tough, though, with the league phase. Guys, I've got to be honest with you. How much your goal difference gets swollen could be the difference between whether you have an extra round of football in February. And this makes it hard. Because 8-0 against Shakhtar could be the reason, 10-0, I mean,
8-0.
Could be the reason you're not playing another round in February. Mm-hmm. And so, start Jesus and start Sterling and start Nwaneri and start Kivior if you want. I wish we had Tomiyasu for next week. That's not another issue. My point is, Clive, how do you balance the very real need to rotate and be fully ready to go for Liverpool against the fact that it may be the case that goal difference is the difference between a round of 32 or whatever tie in February and not? And you have to take that seriously. You have to.
Yeah, it's a Champions League game, right? So at home, and we've just been beat. So trust me, they're taking it seriously, right? So and so we have to. But I don't think, because of the injuries and because of where we are with rehab, I don't think we have too many choices on what to do. Hopefully it'll be good enough in this game. I think Saliba will play. That's one thing, and so he's got the rest of the weekend. So as we record, there was the debate this morning if Arsenal are going to appeal it or not. I'm not sure if they're going to, but I have to say, as we record, they haven't done. I'm not sure it's going to make any difference anyway. So yeah.
The idea that decision costs you another game, by the way, like, it's already enough punishment.
Yeah. I can't be bothered with them. Honestly, I can't, because then I can't be bothered. So for me, it's a Champions League game at home. Let's get back on the horse. Simple as that, Elliot. Let's not overplay it. Let's just get back on it. And honestly, as soon as we get a win and play well, we'll start to look forward to a lot of positivity. And hopefully find a few people to add to the group, particularly offensively. I think that's really important. I want to see some offensive spark, and I just missed it from this game at the weekend. It felt very lumpy to me. Lumpy.
Yeah. And I mean, there were a lot of lumpy guys in midfield. Also, a lumpy pitch, by the way. They had that pitch waterlogged. The ball wasn't moving. There's a lot of factors, but at the end of the day, we have to control what we can control, and I think we can control a hell of a lot more. We need a big win tomorrow. I think we've gotten lucky. We play so quickly after a big disappointment in a game that we should be able to win in front of our home fans to get back to the reminder that we're a very good side, and then play Liverpool at home, a big game, as opposed to a small game where it keeps us still thinking, are we really up there? I think we can feel like we're really up there if we can beat Liverpool next week, and there'll be a lot of build up to that. We'll have plenty over on the Patreon side, and of course the Apple subscription side if you want to join over there, if you're from a region where you can't do Patreon. So hopefully that is helping people out, and we're all in it together. I hope you found this conversation to be helpful because it's tricky. And I know people are processing it differently. Like I said, the response to my tweet, half the people are like, mate, it's only October. What are you talking about? And half the people are like, mate, the title's gone. Just let it go already. It's like, the duality of man. We'll leave it there. Tim's on Twitter. Still there. Thanks, Tim.
My pleasure as always.
Clive's on Twitter, Clive PFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
Always come away from these feeling a lot better at the end of them. I hope everybody else does as well. We go again tomorrow. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10. Shakhtar 0.